hate losing. So, yeah, of course there's a level of frustration for sure. Can't even, sit here and say that we should be this or we should be that. Our record is who we are.
Championship team, it's not us right now.
I said victory is all we ever wanted. A little history is all we ever needed.
This season is definitely different.
Understandable booze here in Los Angeles.
It's the same question every game, every time we lose. It's like, hey, how long do you think it's going to take? We don't know.
Welcome back to NBA Today. George Sedano in for Malika Andrews today. And we are graced by the presence of a rare in-person appearance by Tim McMahon, who's here ahead of the Lakers Mavs. Good to see you, my man.
Pleasure to be here.
All right, good to have you. So now we saw what went down with the Lakers in the last game against the Pels. A lot of chirping from the fans, chirping back from the players. Do you think the crowd could get into this tonight? Because the Mavs are playing really well right now.
Hey, look, if the Lakers don't come out and show a lot of pride, a lot of heart, effort early on, I think there could be a home court disadvantage tonight.
Wow.
And the Mavs will be up for this. Whatever the Lakers' record is, trust me, Luka Doncic, and he admitted it today, he still gets especially up to face LeBron James, the guy who he grew up idolizing, grew up watching from across the world. So you're going to have a Mavericks team that's motivated and ready to play. If the Lakers aren't, we saw it get ugly the other day, and I think we could see some more of the same.
Now, the Mavs shipped out Porzingis, and, of course, they've been doing it by committee around Luka, whether it's Jalen Brunson or Reggie Bullock, a bunch of guys contributing. Is this a better recipe for success, and what's kind of unlocked them on offense?
Well, it is the Luka show, and with Porzingis, there was a couple problems. One, availability. He just was hurt a lot. The other thing, he didn't necessarily enhance Luka. Some of what he wanted to do kind of clogged things up and got in Luka's way. And if you don't work well with Luka, you will not be in Dallas for very long. Right. So if we're being just, honest about it, the Porzingis deal, first and foremost, was about moving off of Porzingis, and they got back two guys Washington wanted to move in Spencer Dinwiddie and Davis Bertans. Those two guys, though, have really contributed to the Mavericks. I mean, Dinwiddie was a huge part of that comeback the other night against the Warriors in San Francisco, and they've really become assets off the bench and guys who have shown that they can play well off of Luka Doncic.
Yeah, and Bertans has like a three-pointer a minute, it feels like. I mean, I'm joking, obviously, but he is stroking it from the outside. Real quick, though, defensively, I think is where they've made the biggest impact, and I feel like Jason Kidd has really put his imprint on that side. Is that accurate?
Well, Jason Kidd will tell you, Sean Sweeney, the redhead, flat-top guy sitting next to him, has a lot to do with that as well. But there's no question, these guys have bought into what Jason Kidd, what Sean Sweeney, that coaching staff, is preaching. And Luka Doncic, too. Once he got into shape, he was able to move better. He's really kind of fit in that culture to the point where he was hearing some chirping from the Clippers bench when the Clippers came through Dallas a little while ago. And his response was, I play defense now, bleep.
I love it. I love a little feisty Luka. So, last thing, speaking of which, we were doing our 25 and under team, basically, and who you'd start a franchise with. We were talking about Ja. We were talking about Luka. Who would you go with?
Either or is the short answer. I think Ja Morant is the most exciting player in the league. He's the number one guy. If I'm buying a ticket, he'd be at the top of that list. I can't put him over Luka yet, or maybe ever, in terms of who do I want to build a franchise around. Again, I'd love to have either one of them, but Luka just at that size, the fact he can impact games as a scorer, a passer, a rebounder, I think he can dominate in a vaster array of ways than Ja Morant can. But hey, either or would be a perfectly good answer as well.
No question about it. Tim McMahon does a phenomenal job covering the NBA for us, particularly the Dallas Mavericks and that region of the country. Good to see you, my man.
Appreciate it.
All right, man. So here's the deal. From one marquee matchup tonight to another, the Hawks are playing the C's this evening. Boston is sitting in the 6th spot and 8-2 in their last 10 games and playing some inspired ball of late. The Hawks, by the way, still clawing as well, just 2 games back of the 8th seed. And earlier today, we saw that ESPN's BPI playoff odds were updated, and they estimate the Celtics as the Eastern Conference team with the highest title odds at the moment. It's pretty wild when you think about it. So we're back here at the desk with Chanae and Matt. And you heard that correctly. ESPN Analytics' team, they love...
We love nerds.
We do, of course. They love the Celtics right now. 10,000 times they simulated this thing, okay? And according to that, it shook out with Boston coming out ahead of Miami and all these other teams. It was wild. They are the favorite according to the computers. So, Matt, go ahead.
I just want, like, is Larry Bird or Paul Pierce coming back? Like, I'm confused.
No. But their defense has been wild.
Yeah, no, great.
Yeah, their defense has been wild. They have the biggest point differential in the Eastern Conference right now, cumulatively over the season. So the computers love them.
Okay.
So what do you make of Boston then, Matt?
I like Boston. To me, they're a mystery. You know, they had a lot of success early on going to the Eastern Conference Finals early in Jason Tatum's career. But this team has kind of been a mystery since. They've tried to move pieces in and out. The two constants have obviously been Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and they both have been sensational. So I really like this team, but if I'm betting, I think they have a chance. You know, they're definitely a talented team. I like the new coaching staff they have over there, but I wouldn't put my money on this team because I just can't seem to figure out what's supposed to get them over the hump. They've had great players come in and out. It hasn't worked, but their two stars have remained consistent.
You know what changed? It was the new year. New year, new me. I know we all hate that when we see that, but it's like actually true when it comes to the Celtics and their defense. And if you look at these numbers, my producer Cesar, one of my favorite nerds here at ESPN, ran these numbers, and look at this. I mean, it's spectacular. Since January 1st, the Celtics are leading the league in defensive efficiency, points per game allowed, assists per game allowed, field goal percentage allowed. They've dominated those defensive characteristics since January 1. So yes, new year, new me. And they've also held opponents to less than 100 points 24 times this season. That's tied for the best in the NBA. They found it. Yeah.
They've stuck to their New Year's resolution.
They did.
Unlike
so
most people, they have stuck to it. And they've done a nice job moving the Time Lord to a place defensively where he can impressive. Is that 3 of those have come in the last 13 days.
Just feel me, George?
The other 2 players are Mike Miller and future Hall of Famer Pau Gasol. Here's the first quarter, 37 feet. Boom. Nothing but net there. Second quarter, this is where it gets interesting.
What?
Okay, get ready. Here comes the poster.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Oh, Jakob, you had to make a business decision there.
These are like one of those iconic games where you know no one can guard you, no one can stop you.
Yeah.
Sorry, Spurs.
And then end of the half, Steven Adams, off a made free throw, goes quarterback. And look at that. Full court to Ja at the buzzer.
The most impressive part, obviously the pass was great for him to catch it in the air and get it off, fading away into the bench. Unbelievable, again.
29 points in the first half for Ja Morant on 12 of 15 shooting. Then we go on to the fourth quarter. Here it is. Morant in transition. Spurs defenders all around him. Here comes the layup, though. Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
They're so crafty.
Doesn't matter.
And less than a minute later, Jaren Jackson Jr. gets the steal, finds Morant again.
50 ball.
There we go. 50 points. Finishes with 52 for the game.
And the whole squad loves it.
And poor Pop has to keep waiting to tie that record. But look at this for Ja Morant.
Wow.
I mean, Chiney, what do you have? What can you say?
This is probably one of the best stretches that we've seen. And, I mean, we just were talking a couple days ago about, okay, he tied, I believe, was it the franchise record in points. Now he's obliterated with 52. Not only the way he's, scoring the ball, but how he's getting that excitement back for the Memphis Grizzlies franchise as a whole. I mean, how often do you see teammates celebrating accomplishments in real time? It was a beautiful thing. That, alley-oop jumper from SA, fade away. You saw how, the bench responded. That's the beauty of basketball that Ja Morant has brought.
He's he's becoming a superstar right in front of our eyes, and I think, like Janae mentioned, the grit and grind, they have a new image now. This is a new team. They have a new identity. This franchise is in great hands. And what I love is this whole team is taken on his personality. I feel like he brings the dog out of everyone in this team.
No doubt.
And that's the reason why they're doing what they're doing.
And listen, he talked about just kind of this whole experience. Let's listen to Ja after the game.
I ain't gonna lie. I don't know if I can talk about that right now, man. My head all over the place. I felt like, a little bit of pressure. It's like, man, you here now, you got to get it. And as I got close, they told me to, go ahead and go get it. So that's why y'all see every time they got the ball, they was looking for 12.
I had to go finish, with authority and finish the play finally for all, everybody who's saying almost. And that go one for y'all right there, man.
I like how Pirtle tried to push him after, why did you do that to me? All right, Ja has had his fair share of almost posters, too. Let's take a look here. 2019, Ja tries to bring down the house on Daniel House.
Ooh. Oh, my goodness.
No dice on that one.
I want to see the Kevin Love one. That might have put K-Love in retirement.
Yeah, we know that's coming.
Fast forward, we go to 2020 now. Ja, off the give, tries to go over the top of AD here. but whistle for the offensive foul.
He does not respect anybody in front of him.
No.
It does not matter who is in front. He's going to try to dunk on you.
I love it, too.
And 2019 Grizzlies Cavs, maybe the greatest dunk that never happened. Ja tries to go all Vince Carter, Frederick Weiss on Kevin Love. Oh, my goodness.
That might have been it for K-Love. Luckily, he didn't make it, and K-Love has rebounded and playing great of late, but this could have been it right here.
Oh,
I've fallen in love with dunkers when they miss dunks because they show you the potential and how easy actual dunks are.
Yeah. Now, look, we saw last night, he finally caught a body in Jakob Poeltl, who clearly wasn't thrilled about it there.
It's a 7-footer, too. I think since his hair's gotten longer, he's been flying high.
Hey.
I love it.
You know what's crazy? I also loved in the All-Star game, the reverse dunk where you literally see him looking at the
Oh, absolutely. And then there's a lot of love out there. It didn't end with just us yesterday talking about it on social media. AI took to Twitter with a Morant jersey draped over his MVP trophy with the caption that says it all, sooner or later. Then Ja replied with, pass the torch, OG. You got to love it. So, Janae, let's start with you here. After last night, where do you see Ja Morant in the MVP conversation?
And I love how they're bonding over being smaller guards, AI to Ja Morant. In the MVP conversation, this is getting fun. This is the first year in a long time where I can say candidates change or fall in or out of the conversation, not even weekly, nightly. Right. A couple days ago, we were talking about DeMar DeRozan, and then now you look at Ja stretching, you're like, hold up, he's been doing this for so long? Right now, I have, top of the top, 1A, 1B, Joel Embiid and Ja Morant. And I know, Matt, you're probably going to dive into the last 10 games or so, but you have a case where people literally are playing themselves in, and I wouldn't say playing themselves out, but it's like the levels have been raised consistently. Everyone's just playing better and better this season. I think that's largely the stability of us having more of a normal, quote-unquote, world when it comes to being able to play basketball.
I mean, last 10 games, he's at 34 points a game, and I agree. I think he's top 3, and he's not 3. And this is one of those unique seasons where I don't recall having this many guys still in the MVP conversation at this point. I mean, she said every other day the conversation is changing, and that doesn't even highlight some of the guys that have kind of fallen to injury of late.
He's still got a little bit of a distance to make up, though, as you see there. Embiid is the clear favorite at the moment. Jokic right there with him. Giannis a little bit further away, and then DeRozan and Morant further away. But I'm with you guys. I have him 2 right now if I had a vote, mostly because, look, Jokic is incredible. No one is denying that. He got his MVP last year. He's putting up incredible numbers in a situation where, look, he's missing teammates, obviously. We know that. But what Ja's doing is special with a group that hasn't really done this before.
Yeah. And Director Kathy, can you guys throw that MVP odds back up there? Because I actually want to break it down. When you look at Joel Embiid, he has 38 wins with the Sixers. The last 10 games, he's averaged 32.5 points a game. Similar to Ja Morant, who has 43 wins, so 6 more than Joel.
Yeah.
Last 2 games, he's had average 49, but the last 10, 33 points. So Joel and Ja, numbers-wise, the last 10 games are very similar. Then outside, as you mentioned, George, Nikola Jokic, I mean, a triple-double, 25, 14, and 8.
Yeah.
With limited help. And then you have Giannis, who quietly is 29 points per game, 11 rebounds and 6 assists, and putting up very similar. And then DeMar, obviously, who was ridiculous, entering All-Star and exiting All-Star. This is the closest race we've seen in a very long time, and it's a narrative race.
Also, keep in mind, they were wrong with these odds about Big Fella, about Cat winning the 3-point contest, so don't live and die on these odds.
That's true.
These odds are just thrown out there.
I wish I put money on that one.
All right, so after last night, I think it's more than fair to ask this next question here. We'll start with you, Matt. If you're starting a franchise today and you had to pick someone, 25 or under, who are you starting with? There's a lot of guys to pick from.
I hate this. I mean, there's Jason Tatum. I mean, there's Luka. There's Ja. There's Trae Young.
Yeah.
I'm going to go with Luka only for the fact that these athletic guys scare me, especially, too, because he's a smaller guy, and that ground is undefeated. AI would tell Ja that ground is undefeated. We've seen a lot of guys that are really, really athletic, and I'm just, I don't want to knock on wood. I hope he stays healthy his entire career, but if I'm building something and starting with something, I need someone bigger and that I know that can kind of take that night in, night out beating. Not that Ja can't, but like I said, those airbound guys scare me sometimes.
Yeah, and I think a question to at least give more credit to Ja is, what does your franchise want, right? Does it need energy? Does it need new life? I mean, what Ja has done for Memphis is exactly what you want. And if I'm looking at that long list, I think a lot of people will say Luka because we know exactly who Luka Doncic is. Ever since he entered the league, he's averaged about 26, 8, and 8. We know Luka. But there's absolutely a case to be made for Ja Morant to be the most improved under 25 that we've seen the last few years, because he came into the league averaged, I believe, around 18 points, and then next year 19, and now we're seeing 27.5, and they're third in the West, probably around third overall. That is remarkable. So Ja, you know, why do I have to say this? Give people their flowers, but what he's been able to do for Memphis, it aligns with the franchise over than, you know, what we say, Luka and all that stuff.
I think that those first four guys that we saw on that list are very close: Tatum, Luka, Trey, and Ja. I think what separates them is, to me, Ja Morant is already a natural-born leader. Like, we're seeing that in real time. And that's no disrespect to any of those other guys, but I feel like he has taken the reins of that leadership role with this particular team, which doesn't have a lot of vets on it.
And it's interesting, too, because when you say leader, you're seeing people playing basketball and being happy, right? The Celtics have gone through some things. You know, they've been in the playoffs, though, so you might say, does leadership translate to playoffs? Trey Young going to the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, there's leadership there, but what you're seeing holistically from a team perspective, I hear you on Ja.
Did we see how young that list is?
Crazy.
And how great the NBA is? I mean, the NBA is in great hands, and I'm sure that list was missing a few guys, but that's a lot of young, very talented people who are already on the map.
And Zion, who we've only seen play 85 games, to cast Zach Lowe. All right, guys, we're going to go coast to coast here with you. We'll start with Zach first up. The Bucks beat the brakes off the Hornets, 130-106 last night. Giannis led the way with 26 points, 16 boards, while Jrue Holiday chipped in with 21 and 8. So, Zach, the champs are in fifth in the East right now. But would you put money on them winning it all this season again?
I wouldn't put money on anyone at this point, but the Bucks have been my de facto choice since the Nets situation went haywire. But the Heat and the Sixers are making me nervous, but I'm still going Bucks.
All right, next up, don't look now, but the Timberwolves are kind of good. And last night, they knocked off the Cavs 127-122. Cat was clutch down the stretch, hitting a three over Jetty Osman with just under 12 seconds left in regulation. Minnesota now has 15 road wins, the most in a single season since the 2017-18 season. So, Chiney, are the T-Wolves good enough to win a playoff series?
I'm not saying that they will do it, but I will say that they're knocking on the door. Because right now they'd be up against the Warriors, the Suns, or maybe even a Grizzlies team. But their big three averages 65, so maybe.
All right, let's move on to the Raptors, who did a bad thing to the Nets last night, beating them by 36 points. The Nets were without Steve Nash, their head coach, KD, Kyrie, and Ben Simmons, who's yet to play this season. On the other side, though, Scotty Barnes went off, pouring in 28 points and grabbing 16 boards, a season high. Toronto's now 7th in the East, going 8-4 in February. So, Matt, are the Raptors contenders or pretenders?
Pretenders is a harsh word. They're a good team. They're just not championship quality. And I just want to tell the rest of the league right now, beat up on the Nets while you can, because help is on the way.
All right, and finally, the Heat remained hot with a 112-99 win over the Bulls. Gabe Vincent and Tyler Hero each had 20 points. Miami got their 9th win in their last 10 games. The Heat are now 3-0 against the Bulls this season. And you know why? They play defense, and they slowed down the lone mid-ranger over there, DeMar DeRozan, who had a streak of 30-point games snapped at 10. By the way, that streak was tied for the second longest by any Bulls player, and just one shy of tying the GOAT, Michael Jordan, for the longest streak in franchise history.
What a stat.
So, the Miami Heat put the clamps on the Bulls. So, Zach, we'll start with you. What was last night's outcome more indicative of? The Heat being a legit title contender, or the Bulls being, quote-unquote, pretenders, which Matt clearly hates the name?
I know we all want to go on the negative side, and the Bulls' record against good teams is a little troubling, but they're going to be a lot tougher when Lonzo, Caruso, and maybe Pat Williams come back. They're going to be a tough out, and everything's gravy for them. The Bulls have exceeded expectations. So let's be positive. Why is nobody talking about the Miami Heat? They're in first in the East by 2 games. They have something like an 85% chance to get the number 1 seed. Their best players have barely played together all season, and all they do is keep winning and switching and strangling your offense to death every single night. This team is nasty, they're mean, they're unpleasant to play against, and when they actually get all their best players on the floor, watch out. Nobody wants any part of these guys. Last night was about Miami crushing the Bulls without Kyle Lowry, because that's what they've been doing all season.
Kyle, Zach, first of all, nice haircut.
Yeah.
Oh, I was going to say that. Nice haircut.
I see you trimmed up. But Miami is one of those teams that's really been floating under the radar, and I think they prefer that. You know, they've got a great team starting in Spo. They got some key veterans that have been there, done that in Kyle Lowry, PJ Tucker. And I forgot myself, I saw on Instagram, I think 2 days ago, Victor Oladipo's coming back. You know, so if he can give them anything, that's just icing on the cake. But really, Spo, you saw the strategy yesterday with to take DeMar DeRozan out of the game. They were able to do that and slow him down. So I'm a big fan. This team is just 2 years removed from the finals. A very blue-collar, hard-working team, like you guys say, that plays defense. So they're always going to have a chance.
Yeah, and when you get, you know, a lot of depth and production from guys like Tyler Hero, who's probably leading for sixth man of the year, right? When you can get Gabe Vincent that can drop 20, I mean, that depth is going to help them offensively. But you're right, Zach, it really starts with the defense. I mean, you mentioned switching. These guys switch for their lives, and they do it well. And it starts with Bam Adebayo being able to hold down that center position at 6'9". If he's not able to do that, this means nothing else is possible. But he can switch out on guards, and that's what makes everything go. I mean, they held the Bulls to their lowest scoring output, 99 points, for over a month. The Bulls have been on fire. DeMar DeRozan, the lone mid-ranger, as you said, George, has been on fire. And guess what? They're just like, you know what? Hold on, wait a minute. Let's do our thing. And so, yeah, we should absolutely be talking about the Miami Heat. You mentioned it. 2 years ago, they were in the finals. They have reloaded. PJ Tucker, Kyle Lowry. Those are guys that really helped that defensive engine. And then now they're positioning themselves to make a run in the playoffs.
And to your point, Janae, with Bam just switching on everything, outside of Boston, Miami switches more than anyone in the league defensively. And Bam probably should get some love for Defensive Player of the Year, to be honest with you, because he's arguably the most versatile guy we have in the sport, guarding 1 through 5. And he shut down DeRozan in a lot of ways. DeRozan had 18 points on 16 shots. We saw the 30-point streak snap, and they were able to put PJ Tucker on Vucevic and kind of control and seal the paint off there, while Jimmy Butler can roam as basically a free safety on defense. That's when they're at their best. They're only going to get better, to Zach's point, because they haven't played with their entire group very much. 74 minutes, which Zach mentioned on the Low Post podcast that I was a guest on. So if someone's talking to Miami Heat, it's us here and me and Zach earlier today on the Low Post podcast. So you can subscribe, rate, and review and listen to it there.
Great plug.
All right, so sticking with the Eastern Conference, there's some very interesting news out of Brooklyn. Ben Simmons has still not been cleared for practice as he recovers from back soreness. He won't practice the rest of this week, and his timetable to return is unknown. Let's take a listen to what Steve Nash had to say about Ben.
Ben is still working through a number of things and reconditioning, and so he's, not going to play this week, but we'll keep working at his timeline, and hopefully he can progress as well. Yeah, I don't think he'll practice this week.
So probably he wouldn't play until the middle of next month, or
I haven't done the math, but I don't know.
You don't need to be a mathematician to be a coach. What are we talking about here? All right, so no Ben Simmons, no KD, a part-time Kyrie. Zach, the Nets are the 8th seed in the East. But do you think anybody actually wants to play them in the playoffs?
I feel like I'm living in a twilight zone about the Nets because I keep getting versions of this question, and my reaction is, can they make the playoffs before we start talking about what a playoff juggernaut they're going to be? They're 8th by 3 games. Right now, they're in the play-in tournament, and their first game is at Toronto. Guess who might not be able to play at Toronto, at least as of now? Kyrie Irving. You lose that game, then you're one and done. Like, yes, I agree that the Nets fully formed with all that shooting around Simmons and Durant maybe being the best player in the league. They're terrifying. They're a team nobody wants to play. But, does that team exist? Are they going to make the playoffs? But I will say this, George. If they do make the playoffs, this has been my longtime proposal since the play-in came. The number 1 seed should be able to get to pick its first-round opponent from the 2 teams that come out of the play-in tournament, so that if you see a team like the Nets and you're Miami, and all year you've earned the right to be the number 1 seed, you have to play that team? No, I'm picking the other team.
I love that, Zach. I have a follow-up question. Even after the trade deadline where Ben Simmons is, now on the Nets, but then not available, as we just heard, for at least the next few weeks, does that still make the Brooklyn Nets the best theoretical team? Are we still in that territory?
No, the best theoretical team's already. You have to fail to be an actual team before you can be a theoretical team. So we have to give them time to fail to be an actual team first.
I think let's keep in mind that before KD was injured, they were 2nd in the East.
Right.
So they've slid down to 8th, obviously. I want to say 3.5, if I'm not mistaken, out of the 4th spot. This team is, like I said earlier, beat them while you can, because I have a feeling some rules are going to be maneuvered and we're going to start to see more Kyrie. And the one thing about Ben Simmons, although you want him on the court, he's not someone that necessarily, with all due respect, has to find his rhythm for like a shooter does. They need his energy on defense. He's a lockdown defender and he's a playmaker. So to me, it's not going to take that long to get his wheels under him, so to speak, once he comes back, because it's not like he doesn't really shoot that much. He's more of a pass-first playmaker and someone that can lock up on defense. So I'm still very high. And there's a reason why odds are they're still on favor to come out of the East, is because they know once these guys can and will get on the court, they're going to be a problem.
Co-sign, retweet.
Yeah, they could look. I mean, Ben Simmons is exactly what they need, right? Like, no disrespect to James Harden, he's a more traditional point guard. Nobody has created more open looks in the 2 previous seasons that he had played for open three-pointers than Ben Simmons in this sport. So there's that, and then defensively, he's a top 3 defensive guy, as you mentioned, as well. So some more love, and here's the top of the top from the month of February. First up, top. Ja pass, the no-look underhand fast break, which ends up in an alley-oop.
You know what's crazy? In this game, he got it back. But, like, look at that. That was, like, perfect form for the no-look.
This team's having so much fun playing basketball. They're a great team to watch.
Yep. Next up, we got more alley-oop action. This time, Ja alley-oops. First, the big 2-hander against the Bulls here.
Oh.
And then there's going to be a one-hander with the Bulls.
That's the play I was talking about.
Yeah.
Real.
It is unfair. And he looked away before he went out. Yeah.
Come on.
Shout out to teammates throwing lobs to the point guard.
Yeah.
I love it.
Equal opportunity.
There we go. All right, next, Ja 360, staying in Chicago. Look at the hang time and finish on this particular play. This is wild.
This was the play of the other day, though.
Now.
Like, what?
I got hit with one of those in my career. I didn't like it.
Oh, really?
That's the John Wall got me with that.
Oh, but John Wall has done it. You're right.
Yeah.
And you're a defender, so you were like, there's no way you were happy about that.
I forgot. John Wall's the last one that we really saw doing this
all
real.
the time,
Yeah.
All right, next up, top
I miss you, John.
for Ja, elevation, of course. Both of his insane alley-oops in the All-Star game.
Is it crazy that he can be every category we're talking about right now? Like, he is the head of every category?
Thanks. Yeah.
Unbelievable.
It's like he freeze frames, too, right?
And he's like looking at the rim backwards, but then you see the reach.
Right.
Makes it look easy. He's a short guy.
And you see how far he's coming down?
And lastly, top showcased. First, one more time, the dunk last night, but also, of course, the alley-oop jumper at halftime at the buzzer. I mean, that was him doing damage to Pirtle. But then this was the best play.
Beautiful.
I mean, that's great, but dunking on a 7-footer, I mean, that's what guard, that's what everyone wants to do, but for him to do it from his position, great shot, don't get me wrong. But
oh, really? You think the dunk was better?
I think
loving
so.
the crew.
Wow.
I mean, just going on a 7-footer as a small guy, that's everything you want.
Okay. Now, listen, we saw that pass by Steven Adams, and of course the catch, and then the shot. So ESPN resident QB Dan Orlovsky wanted to chime in on all this as far as the connection between Steven Adams and Ja. Let's take a listen.
George, thank you, man. It's actually nice to see Matt on there today. I was told that I was brought on for 2 reasons: looks and talent, after always watching RJ and Perk on it. So let me break this play down. I don't like the drop down from Steven Adams on the throw, but that is a beautiful ball to Ja Morant. You see the point right there? That's the Randy Moss action of, hey, I got him, point it up and throw it up there for me. This reminds me a little bit of watching Aaron Rodgers just throw a deep ball to a player like Devontae Adams, and you see the ability to levitate. This angle is at the actual best, because watch when he catches this ball. This is a beautiful flick of the wrist right there. Ooh, that is so pretty from Ja Morant. One of the better plays in the NBA season, certainly one of the better plays we've seen in pro sports this year. A sick throw and catch, one that we see on NFL Sunday so often. So appreciate you guys having me on. Again, better looks and talent than RJ and Perk ever bring.
Thanks, Dan Orlovsky, the self-proclaimed good looks of Dan Orlovsky. Matt and Chiney, thank you guys for hanging out. All right, appreciate that. So here's the deal. We got a lot to talk about still on this show. We're going to bring in Monica McNutt and bring back Zach Lowe. And Monica, starting with you, Ja Morant. He is the most exciting player since...
Ooh, George, that's a terrific question. All right, I've got... Oh, we had a list of guys. Hear me out on this. I threw Dame Lillard into the list of guys that he's the most exciting since. And I know Dame obviously is still in the league and so forth, but he's having a rough year. But there was a window there where you had to see the way Dame was in particular going to close games, right? Like he was edging Steph Curry for that title, edging KD for that title, particularly because of the way that he was able to close. And so in regards to the knack for big time baskets, game winners, Ja obviously has a little bit of ceiling to go on that one, but that level of excitement, that's what it reminds me of.
Zach?
I haven't felt this sort of league pass addiction. Where are they? Who are they playing? What time? Oh, damn, they're not playing tonight. Must-watch television since Steph Curry put up 54 in Madison Square Garden and started revolutionizing basketball, and you just had to see it every night. The audacity of Steph Curry. What was he going to do? Where was he going to shoot from? And it became like a ritual. You knew everybody on NBA Twitter, every fan had their eyes trained on that game because of Steph. That's what the Grizzlies are now. You know everybody is watching, waiting for the latest spectacular thing Morant is going to do. They are the best show in the NBA, and it's remarkable how fast that happened.
Yeah, look, he's must-watch TV. I don't think there's any question. I think the league is full of must-watch TV right now, particularly with these young guys. I am always checking on East Coast time where Ja's playing, right? And I want to know where LaMelo's playing. Like, there's a bunch of these games now where I'm flipping around constantly. But with Ja, to me, I just think the fact that this team is so good makes me want to watch even more. And he's really just been so good at elevating the players around him as well. It's not, Jaren Jackson Jr. is an excellent young player, but he has not had a great season to this point by the standards that we would like to hold him to. So I just think that part of it is so underrated for him, what he's doing to lift his teammates. Now, there's a question, and Matt brought it up earlier in the show about, like when we're picking the under 25 guys, the guys who are super athletes, do you worry about them because, they hit the ground so much? Monica, do you worry about that at all with Ja?
A little bit, but I think what Ja has revealed, as we all take in the athleticism, is also he has a nose for the game and understands basketball. Listen to Pop's comments last night after that game. He's like, it's not just that he's a high-flying athlete, it is his basketball IQ. And I go back to my first national love affair moment with this Memphis Grizzlies squad last year when I called them as a team that would beat the Golden State Warriors in that play-in game. If you watch that game, Ja had been challenged at the end of the regular season in terms of what he was willing to do from behind the three-point line. And so he understood the pace of that game. He slowed it down. He hit some timely threes in the play-in version of the game. And so I worry most about guys that rely solely on their athleticism. I think over the arc of Ja's career, he will be able to adjust accordingly.
I like that Monica was like, check the receipts, all right? I picked that game. Zach, what do you think?
You know.